We just wanted to give everyone a quick walk around of our camp setup. This is our 2020 Intech Flyer Chase trailer with the Smittybilt Gen 2 Overlander top, or rooftop tent. Got part of that right. It's pretty simple, but we like it. It does the job. Most people ask us about the tent and how we like that, and we really enjoy it. It gives us flexibility if I'm snoring way too loud, and Nicole, who has the hearing of a bat, doesn't want to hear that. We can have separate spaces, or we can have friends, or we can have a lot of flexibility on how we decide we want to camp. The tent's been great. We really like it. So there's not much to say about it other than that. It's pretty easy to put away, set up, especially since we took the rain fly off of it. So that's the main part that people usually want to know. The trailer itself is really well constructed. It's an aluminum cage skinned with aluminum, and it's all welded, so there's nothing to really rattle apart, which is part of the reason that we chose this. And had a hard time finding one, but finally found one in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and drove and picked that up. This model actually included the 2-inch lift kit that Intech offers, which we thought would be handy since the Jeep is pretty tall, and actually we have to drop the hitch quite a bit already, which you can see. So excuse the mess in the Jeep there, but wanted to get it off the ground a little bit, but not too much where it's a pain to get in and out. But so far it's worked out really well. It's a torsion axle, so kind of independent suspension. And it actually, I think, rides smoother than the Jeep does because things get rattled around in there less than they do in the Jeep. Talking about the durability of the trailer, this is our campsite that we chose this time because it may not look like much, but this hill is really steep. We actually needed four-wheel drive to get up here. It was just spinning tires otherwise. So that road kind of goes off to the side there. And it was no problem at all dragging it up this hill. And the reason we did that, number one, was to get away from folks, which we always do, but also these views are incredible. One of our favorite places to camp, and it's nice to be able to go some places that other people either can't or won't. So the durability and how rugged the trailer is definitely a positive. It's really a box on wheels. We had decided to go this route of the trailer without the rear galley, primarily because we wanted to be able to use it as a utility trailer as well. And it's worked out really well for that. Inside, pretty basic. We're not using the bed that came with it. It has what's called a couchbed, and we don't know if they really even make these anymore, but it flips up. This side right here will actually flip up towards the wall and give us a couch if we need to get out of the weather or something. We can do that. And then it's got the cabinet in the front with a shelf, and that's really about it. It does have an air conditioner that we occasionally use, not very often. We have installed a soft start so we can run it with a small generator if we would like to. But our generator has, I think, 6 hours on it, so we obviously don't use that very often either, and we don't even have it with us right now. On the side, we have a TuffStuff Overland shower tent that we use as our bathroom, and my fantastic shadow. So that does a good job. It's easy to put up and take down. Trailer has a spare tire attached to the side. It was already pre-wired for solar, but we decided to go a different route and not use the built-in solar option. The wire you see running down the side here is for a light inside the tent, just so we can see what's going on before climbing in there in the middle of the night. And then we ran some other wires down the corner here into our kind of custom solar setup, which is a 100 watt HQST panel, which does awesome for the price. It's really, really hard to beat that. We've got it mounted on these brackets so we can get it out of the way when we're setting the tent up. And when the tent is folded, we actually lean that back and it turns into a bit of a wind deflector to keep the drag down a little bit, because the tent does create some drag. One of our favorite things on this model actually is the roof rack, because it is built so well and it can hold a lot of weight. We're not even close to the limit with the tent and everything else we have attached to that. Intech did an awesome job figuring out this roof rack. It's been super strong, very sturdy. I walk around on the roof a lot when we're putting the tent away just to make it easier, and it doesn't even flex. So if you're looking for something with a solid roof rack, this would be the way to go. We did roll with coolers before. We have a Yeti cooler that was basically a gift, and a Kanai cooler that's built by Grizzly that we bought that was a lot bigger than the Yeti we had. But then we found this deal on this refrigerator and decided to give it a shot, and we actually really, really like it. It doesn't use much power. It's 12 volts, and we don't have to mess with ice, and we have plenty of power even with the small battery that we have right now that I'll talk about in a minute. And it's treated us really well. Between the small battery and the solar, it's never even gotten close to depleting the battery. So if you're looking for a budget fridge, that's a great option. It really does a good job. 35 quarts on this model, and so far it's treated us really, really well. The tongue box is a bit of a mess right now. From the factory, it came with an 80 amp hour flooded lead acid battery that did the job, but it was heavy. I think it weighed 75 pounds. It was not light. So we actually replaced it in that battery box under that bundle of wires, which is for our cell phone booster if we ever need to set it up. We replaced it with a 50 amp hour lithium battery just to see if we liked it and made sure it worked with our solar. And so far it's doing great. We actually have a 100 amp hour Renogy battery on the way, because they were running a good sale recently. And then we redid a lot of the wiring, which is far from complete. Definitely not done. Got a lot of work to do there, but that works out pretty well. We have the Victron charge controller for the solar, which is awesome. It has Bluetooth, so it gives us an idea of how much solar we're actually getting. And that's wired directly in through this trolling motor plug, actually, on the right. And then I also have a 12 volt outlet where we can plug the refrigerator, any other accessories into that. And then we just kind of have the zip tie pads going up the side here over to the solar panel. So we can always remove that, move it, modify it, do whatever we want to do. Nothing's really permanent because I change my mind constantly on everything. But that's really where we store the propane, where all of the brains of the whole thing exist. One of the things that I don't know if you'll be able to see is that we don't like is that the paint is pretty soft. I don't even know if you would consider it paint or if it's some other sort of finish on the aluminum shell. But it is easy to scratch. It is kind of delicate, actually. So very easy to get Arizona pinstripes. We've got a few of them. We're pretty careful, but sometimes a branch is going to drag. And that's one of the downsides. We can live with it. We could always get it wrapped if we really cared. But it was meant to go off-road and be abused. And we do a good job of taking it off-road and abusing it. So It's a small complaint, but it's something to consider. Also, the windows are not the greatest. We're used to dual pane RV windows that function a little bit more smoothly than these do, but they get the job done. They are single pane, so the insulation's pretty much non-existent, but it works. We do have an outdoor light right here that's almost too bright, so we hardly ever use that. And then it also has a light on the back that has a rear porch light, we'll call it, also extremely bright. It's all LED, so it doesn't take much power, which is important since we're always running on battery, but it's very bright. So if you need to see around camp, you definitely can. And on the topic of lights, there's also a light in the TuffStuff tent where we can hook it to a battery or plug it into USB. We just use a small brick, and that's a nice way to be able to see if you need to do anything in privacy. So overall, we've really enjoyed it. Very, very few complaints. It does a great job for us, and it hasn't let us down yet. Our tow vehicle is a 2012 Jeep Wrangler Sport. When we bought it, it was bone stock. I don't think it had ever even seen wet grass. It had 40,000 miles, and the spring still had factory stickers. So it had a very easy life until we got it, and now we beat the hell out of it. It did have a soft top, but we replaced that with a Smittybilt safari top that I have a love-hate relationship with, but that's a story for a different time. It's mostly still stock. We did lift it 2.5 inches, put some bigger tires on it, replaced the bumpers, and got a winch. Because we mostly go alone, I just wanted to have one. We haven't needed it yet, and I hope to keep it that way. But it's there if we do need it. Other than that, we've got, some rock sliders, which we've bounced on a couple times, obviously without the trailer. And then it has a shelf system in the back to help us pack up. It's a disaster right now from climbing that hill. The firewood went flying everywhere, but this shelf is real nice for our camera bags and a couple of crates to haul things in. And got our trash bag that we keep on the back. Makes it real handy to keep things off the ground. And again, something we hope to never really need, but is there just in case, is the high lift jack. I actually grew up on a farm using these things, so I know how dangerous they are, but I also know how useful they are. One of these actually broke my dad's jaw when it was wore out, so don't preach to me about how dangerous they are. I know. And that's really about it with the Jeep. Nothing much to say, unless anybody has any specific questions. So the elephant in the room. How much does this shit cost? And with the way the supply chain is and things availability right now, probably more than when we were shopping for this back in 2019. And we saved forever, and we really did our research and decided that this is what we wanted. And it was really more than what we wanted to pay. But once we saw how it was built and we saw the support that was behind it, we figured buy once, cry once, and that's what we did. So the trailer was around $13,000, which seems ridiculous. And it is all aluminum. I think the only wood in this thing is the cabinets and the walls on the inside. So that was one of the big selling points, again, was just the cage structure and knowing that we were going to beat the hell out of it. We wanted to make sure that we had something that was strong, and we wanted something that had a strong roof rack because we knew we were going to be putting some weight up there as well. The tent was at the time, I think $1,100, which again seems ridiculous, but that's actually the budget side of rooftop tents. And it's a love-hate thing. Some people love them, some people hate them. We really happen to really like it. It's served us well, and it's kind of a nice little tree house because we can actually stand up out of the top, and we're photography nerds. So getting a higher viewpoint is really handy as well. Yeah, it set us back, but it wasn't something that was an overnight decision. It was really years in the making. And once we got the Jeep, which we've had for 4 years or so now, as soon as we got that, we knew we wanted to get out, because Arizona has 30 million acres of public land, and we wanted to be able to explore that. We came from a place that had no public land, essentially, and living in a place now that where that's a thing, it was just a no-brainer for us to find a somewhat comfortable way to get out and explore that land that we pay for. So it wasn't cheap. It was an investment, but now the price on the tent, I guarantee you, is going to be more than we paid. And if you buy a new trailer, I think I saw one listed for $16,000 recently that wasn't even as equipped as ours, which is hilarious because ours is bare bone. But yeah, things are going up in price. I think we pulled the trigger at the right time, and it's comfortable. You know, a lot of people want to pretend that you're not camping unless you're completely roughing it. But to that, I say, do it however you like it. If you want to be comfortable, be comfortable. If you want to sleep on a twig with a Mylar blanket, do that too. I don't care. But this is what works for us. Not really what needs to work for you. It doesn't matter how you want to get out. Just get out and do it. And that's the important part. We just happen to enjoy doing it this way, and that's not the right way for everyone. So do what you want to do. We're just sharing some information because we've had some people ask. Matter of fact, even on this really remote hill out in the middle of nowhere, as you can see, there were some people on some side-by-sides. They were driving up, and then somebody in a geo tracker that was probably close to ripping their oil pan off 2 or 3 times on the way up stopped and talked to us for a good half an hour. And they were super friendly, had some nice questions, and really just wanted to talk about getting out into nature and enjoying that. So it is by no means one size fits all. This is just what we enjoy. This is one of the reasons we chose a trailer with no rear galley. It's nice to be able to pop open the doors and just take a look out. I missed the sunset because we were cooking and doing other things, but it's really nice to have kind of a picture window at the foot of your bed. The lighting inside is more than adequate. It's one of the things they did really, really well. They did a lot of things really well with this trailer, but the lighting inside is definitely more than you'll need. And we use it a lot. So here's an example of the obnoxious lighting. It definitely helps you out a little bit. You don't want to keep anything too close to the trailer. And that's right at eye level, so you're going to be blinded. Same thing with the side. Like, it lights up camp, no problem. I say that as I trip over shit. And it's just a little too harsh. But if you need light and you need to see what's going on, they've got you covered. While we're on the topic of obnoxious lights, I was born in the 80s, but I grew up in the 90s. So the Fast and the Furious was a thing. That was partially what inspired this. But the real reason is what I just talked about. Trying to keep from tripping over everything at camp. And it'll keep critters out from the underside. So, Underglow, when I was a kid, the kit was like $200 for a halfway decent one. And it was a pain in the ass to install. And usually not very well built. And now you can get that stuff for like $20. So that's what I did. Ordered a kit for $20, and we can see under the trailer. We can see around the foot of it, not trip over everything. And then in addition to that, we can party. I think there's even a way that we can, oh yeah, it will react to your voice, which is completely useless for what we're doing. But for $20, Why not have a little bit of fun? You can have a disco in the desert. As we talk about this, it's not about what we have, and it's not about what you need. It's about what the options are. And there's 1,000 different setups. So there's a good opportunity that you can sleep in the back of a 2-door Jeep if you're 4 feet tall, and that's perfectly fine. You can put a tent on the Jeep. You can put a tent on the ground, and it works just fine. So, like I said, and I will say frequently in the future, we're soft. When it comes to camping, we want to be comfortable. So, and I'll be the first to admit that. I'm not going to sleep on the ground. I don't need that. I'm fucking old. So, do what works for you. We're just kind of showing some of the things that are options and what works for us. And if it works for you, that's awesome. And if it doesn't, who cares? Do what does work. But I'm always interested in seeing other people's setups. So I hope that some people are interested in seeing ours as well.